Good evening. Good evening. It's 5:04 p.m. It is April 1st. This is the meeting of the Northborough Financial Planning Committee. This open meeting of the Financial Planning Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency signed into law on March 29, 2023. All members of the Financial Planning Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the Financial Planning Committee to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. Public's encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on this agenda. And ensuring public access does not ensure public participation. This meeting will feature public comment. First, I'd like to start with a roll call of the committee. Susan Satori.
Present.
Ken Picard.
Present.
Scott Stockland.
Here.
Rob Babcock.
Here.
John Ray.
Here.
John Rappa, present. We have a full committee. Okay, thank you all. First item on the agenda, public comments. Do we have any member of the public with any comments tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. Second item on the agenda is approval of meeting minutes, March 5th, March 12th, and March 19th. Do I have a motion to approve these minutes?
I move to. John, I got a question. I don't think we've seen the March 19th.
We have not. We have not. It should be passed over for now because it's not prepared yet.
Okay, so I make a motion to approve March 5th as amended and March 12th as submitted.
Second.
Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Motion
Point of
carries.
order, Mr. Chair, should that be a
Yes.
roll call vote? That you have to call us and then we have to say, since we're on remote?
I apologize. Let's do that. Okay, so for the approval of the meeting minutes, Susan Satori,
Aye.
Ken Picard,
Aye.
Scott Stockland,
Aye.
Rob Babcock,
Aye.
John Ray,
Aye.
and John Rappa. Aye. We'll visit the March 19th minutes when they're ready at a subsequent Financial Planning Committee meeting in the future. Okay, the next item is the review and vote recommendations on final changes to the town meeting warrant and the capital improvement plan articles. Jason Little. Jason, could you share your screen?
Sure.
With the draft of the report? If it pleases the committee, I'd like to have Scott Charpentier, the DPW director, to discuss the revision to two DPW articles we previously voted on. Because of the revisions, we're going to have to take another vote. So, Jason, can we start with?
Yeah, give me one moment. I'm having trouble with. Let's see.
We'd like to start with Scott, and then we'll go back to the beginning of the report and take it from there.
Okay, give me one moment. All right, here. Does everybody see the Word document that's your report? The financial planning report?
Ken does.
Okay. All right, so this report hasn't changed from the last time you've seen it, with the exception of we added in a comment that we talked about the ARPA funding, which we'll go back to. We'll skip that discussion until we can get through discussing the changes that happened with the police station article. So the police station siding article has increased by the same amount that the hook truck has been reduced. So in the warrant book, the hook truck has been reduced to 0, and the $340,000 that was originally part of that article was reallocated to this police station siding article, and that would be the most material thing that's happened since we met last. And Scott Charpentier is here to answer any questions about that.
Through the chair.
I have,
Please.
not sure, Jason, this might be for you as opposed to Scott, but so is the reason that the truck is still going to be just reduced to 0 instead of removed completely? Is that more of a procedural thing where it's too late to actually have it removed because the date has passed and it's still going to be on there even though we're not buying it?
Correct. Yeah. The intention is, I think the thought was to based on conversations with the moderator, was that they didn't want to renumber all of the warrant articles since it was already getting confusing with one of there had to be another article inserted due to the reorganization of the Health and Human Services Department. So I believe the thought was it would be less confusing to leave the article in there as 0 and pass over the article for the hook truck rather than remove the article completely and renumber everything again. But that's a supposition on my part. But that's the reason behind that, and I think that there will be nothing to do with that article beyond passing over the hook truck because it's in the warrant book as 0.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. I was just.
That's correct.
Okay.
Jason, I have a follow-on to that question. In the draft report you've sent us this afternoon, we had the vote approval we had in there as 4 and 2. Is that going to stay as is, or
For which
for the
article?
hook truck? For the hook truck, Article 26. the hook truck.
No. I mean, I would hope that we would just revisit that article and recommend put in there that you recommend passing over it and revote that.
Okay.
Yeah, so those are the two things that I was hoping to update tonight. Those are two of the things I was hoping to update tonight, was get an updated vote on both the police station siding and the hook truck.
Through the chair,
Yes, please.
is it the intent to put the hook truck in next year's capital improvement plan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
And through the chair, just maybe some rationale through Scott about, these two things and how they're thinking through between not asking for the hook truck and here we are at the police station at this quote.
Certainly, through the chair. So the police station siding is in dire need of replacement. It's deteriorated. It's rotted. The vapor barrier underneath has deteriorated as well. The siding is, the trim work is rotted. The police station absolutely needs to be re-sided no matter what. The hook truck is a kind of utility knife type of truck. It comes with a variety of bodies, and the bodies can be expanded on without having to buy a new chassis. We don't currently have a hook lift in our fleet. We were proposing a new vehicle, and we can wait certainly for the year to make sure the police station gets buttoned up for and weather tight before the hook lift comes back before town meeting.
And then are there any other articles that could wait a year? Or the hook truck was chosen because the value just kind of made up the difference? Or is there anything else on that was presented to that could wait another year if we were to have conversations around budgets through the process?
Everything else proposed is replacement equipment. So the hook lift was the only new piece of rolling stock. Everything else is replacement. And I think I went into good amount of detail on the importance of our bucket truck and its availability, as well as the sidewalk machines. Those are the types of equipment that cannot be done by anything else. A hook lift is a dump truck. It's a spreader. It's a material body. We have a dump truck. We have a spreader. They're on dedicated chassis. This would be a more efficient way more cost-effective way to provide a kind of a pocket knife, or a Swiss Army knife of trucks. But yeah, we can certainly wait on the hook lift, but I do not recommend reconsidering any of the other equipment. It's all replacement equipment and needed.
Through the
Question
chair.
from Susan. Sure.
It's my recollection that we also put it in as a priority 4 because it was modernization and it wasn't a replacement. So I think we kind of all agree that that's probably the best decision you could have made. What I'd like to ask you, Scott, is I know that a lot of people are asking, how did we go from 70 last year to 200 this year in the beginning and now to 500? Can you explain the evolution of the amount of work that you have found that
Certainly.
needs to be done at the police station?
I'm happy to do that, Susan. The $70,000 for paint was based on a quote that the police department, the former chief, received from a painting company. When that article was approved, myself and my facility manager went to the site, talked to the painter, looked at the building, and it would not support a coat of paint. The trim is rotted and falling off. The nails are falling out, literally. You can break the siding with your fingers. So we had a general contractor come out to take a look at it and say, how much is it going to cost to remove everything that's damaged and replace it all? That contractor we contacted is on the state bid list of a general contractor. He gave us a labor-only estimate of $111,000. So $111,000 for labor only to remove all the siding and put up something in its place, whether it be vinyl or new clapboard. Adding that 111 to what we expected in materials got us to the 200,000. That $200,000 number was questioned by, I believe it was a select board members. So we had funds allocated from CPA to provide funding for an architect and a cost estimator to put together an estimate on the building. We engaged Icon, who was doing the town office feasibility study, and their estimator. They came forward with the construction cost estimate you see of $540,000 to remove all the clapboard, remove all the trim, replace the trim with a PVC board, install new vapor barrier, and then vinyl side of the building.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, can you hear me? I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, Tim, go ahead.
Scott did a great job, but I just want to clarify. It wasn't CPA that gave us the $5,000. It was Appropriations Committee that we made the request for the 5,000 to do this, to look at the architect to get the true cost or closer to the true cost. I just want to make that clear for folks who are listening and or taking meeting minutes.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Through the chair.
Susan?
Scott, could you tell us how much you had to pay for the architect, just so that people that are listening will be able to put a timeline and dollar numbers to it all?
$3,000. It was actually a little more than $2,500, about $2,800. It was very challenging to find an architect who had the time and bandwidth to get this done that quickly. I reached out to HKT, the architect on the fire station building. They didn't have adequate resources to do it in time. We're lucky that we have 2 quality architects that we're engaged with right now, and they were able to be responsive.
Through the chair, may I ask another question?
Please, Susan.
If this warrant article should pass at town meeting, can you explain to me what the process will be to initiate getting the building done? Will you be going through the regular bidding process?
Yes, we will. We'll engage an architect, whether it be Icon or another one, to prepare the technical specifications. The town will bid it out as as any Chapter 149 project, we did in-house bidding for the gutters and roof at the police station probably half a dozen years ago. We'll have an architect on board for shop drawing reviews and construction inspections during, critical times when they remove the materials, make sure things are put in correctly. The shop drawings will be submitted, the architect will review them, and they'll be participating in the substantial completion and final inspections.
And Scott, can you explain why we won't be using any volunteer services like Assabet, places like that?
Sure. Well, so the paint that's on there now was done by the sheriff's department. They used to have a work release program where inmates would come out and provide labor services such as painting buildings. That program was canceled when COVID came through, and it has not been reinstated. I did reach out to Assabet. They are not allowed to work on lifts or scaffolding. So, the students would only be addressing the bottom 6 feet of the building.
Scott, I want to thank you, and I appreciate how quickly you were able to put another estimate together and get something so that we can work to get this done if we get approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan.
Through the chair, one more question. Scott, are there
Please.
any municipal programs, Mass Save, when it comes to this, or HVAC, or anything that we can look at based on the scope of work being more than a paint job? Anything worth pursuing or exploring?
We can look at a Mass Save on whether there's when the architect gets engaged, if there's a need for example, foam board insulation in order to shim out things around the windows so the penetrations look appropriate. There may be an opportunity there. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the details of this type of envelope repair, but we'll certainly look into it.
And Scott, a comment to John's point. Should there be a Mass Save or equivalent type of incentive there, more than likely it's a rebate after the fact.
Correct. And any funds that are not utilized for this project, knock on wood, bids come in favorable. We get a competitive number and a quality contractor gets done, and there's funds remaining. That just goes back into the free cash process, as anything else, any other capital item would.
And Scott, one last comment from me. The composition of this number, the 540,000, is broken down how, please?
We have it broken down by material, labor, overhead profit, soft costs, insurances, MOB and demob. The estimate itself is, let me see, there it is. So 10 pages in total, and it includes 176 different line items. There was a very thorough estimate that was prepared.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And through the chair, one more question again.
Please.
Is it assumed clapboard or like the cement board? What's the assumption on material?
We base this on vinyl siding.
Okay.
Commercial grade vinyl siding. When we do engage an architect, there are bid approaches referred to as bid alternates, where you can base bid one thing and then bid alternate kind of a better version, so to speak. So we'll look into that. We do that on we're doing that on the dog park, and there's a few other projects where we've done bid alternates. It gives the community a little bit of flexibility if the bidding environment is aggressive.
Great, thank you.
I have one more then, Scott. So based upon what you were just saying with aluminum siding, where does aluminum siding rank in terms of the options that we have for redoing the exterior of this building? Is that the most expensive, or somewhere in the middle, or the lowest?
It would be vinyl siding, and that's likely comparable to pine clapboard. The preference, as John was indicating, would be a cement board that'll be there forever. That can be very, very costly. But again, when we get an architect on board, there's bid alternates that we can put together. This would not be like the vinyl siding we get, at the Home Depot when we rewrap our shed in it. This is commercial grade. It's thick, it's strong, it's color through. That's the discussions we're going to have with the architect early on.
Through the
Okay.
chair.
Susan?
In this thread of conversation, what's the useful life on this kind of siding that you're suggesting?
30 years, 40 years.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions from the committee? None being said, we have a motion to pass over the hook lift truck, Article 26. Good, thanks,
Mr.
Jason.
Chair, I move that we vote to move over Article 26, the hook lift truck. And we recommend passing over it, and that we change our recommendation by a vote, I guess, right? Do you want to vote?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion. Second. Okay. Further discussion? Okay. Let's have a vote on this. By roll call. Susan Satori,
Aye.
Ken Picard,
Aye.
Scott Stockland,
Aye.
Rob Babcock,
Aye.
John Ray,
Aye.
and John Rappa. Aye. Okay, unanimous to pass over this Article 26. Jason, can we go to Article 19 when you're ready?
Yeah, I'm just going to update this on the spot to
Thank you.
reflect that.
Thank you.
This is how I have it reflected for now. Right. Yes, recommend passing over. All right. So I'm going to move up to the next article, the former article, the police station siding.
Okay, Article 19 is the police station siding for $540,000. It's a priority 2. You recall we voted on this last meeting. We need to revote this because the price has gone up. Do I hear a motion to vote on Article 19?
Mr. Chair, I recommend we vote in favor of Article 19, which is the police station siding at a price of $540,000.
Second.
Further seconds?
Should we roll call or
We will, John. Yeah.
Oh,
Any
I'm
further
sorry.
any further
no.
comments?
no comment?
Okay.
Yeah, John, Ken Picard, I have a question. Well, more of a
Please.
comment. I think everybody involved with the expedited pricing and estimating, it is definitely sticker shock, though. I believe we need to get this done, but whoever's going to talk about this article at town meeting better be able to deal with the sticker shock. But I am in favor of it.
Thank you. I think that's Mr. Charpentier's job at town meeting.
Yeah.
But if the town, sorry, go ahead, John.
No, to further like maybe draw out Ken's comments with my own comments is, as I think about the financial planning committee and our role and, to research and to consult and advise in this economic environment, we get every budget going up, operating capital. I feel like we should be looking harder at priority 4s and maybe gone here differently, but that's my own personal belief, just because of, I don't think the town's aware. We've got an 8% tax increase proposed, $600 per house at just our median house. I mean, that's a lot of tax dollars. So I feel like as a team, as a committee, I think about that.
I concur with you. The downside of the town not approving this is the time value of money. This gets pushed off another year or more. The police station still looks like it does today. It continues to rot a little further, and the cost of this will probably be higher somewhere in the future.
Oh, I apologize. I wasn't clear. all in
No,
favor
no,
of the
no.
police station. This is the hook and
Okay.
ladder truck. Like these are the things I think we need to look at as a committee. The priority
Agreed.
fours, and so I am fully support the police station. It needs to be taken care of.
Okay.
So
right.
John, is Ken, one more
Yes,
time,
Ken.
you mentioned the appearance of the building. This goes beyond the appearance. Water
Yes.
infiltration on the building envelope can cause health hazards, and also other damage. So I think that's really what has to be addressed here and highlighted is it's the water infiltration that can cause extensive damage to the structure and cause mold and health issues to the occupancy of the building.
Yes. Susan?
Well, from Ken's comment, should we consider changing the priority to a priority 1? We did for the fire station that has the same kind of problem and have that changed within our report. Secondly, I'd like to say that we do need to emphasize here and at town meeting that this is free cash, so it won't be a tax impact for this year's budget. Though it is surprising to have something of this nature come up at the last minute at this price. I think that people have been looking at this building in a different way because they had an expectation that in a couple of years there would be some kind of renovation project. Once the police chief had said publicly that he does not think he needs a renovation there, I think people started taking another harder look at what that building needed. And so I think that's why we're all in the place that we're at. But I make a motion that we change the priority to the police station to a priority 1.
Scott
Second.
Charpentier? Scott Charpentier?
Yes, Mr.
Go
Chairman.
back here. Just to clarify here on what Susan has proposed. In the priorities,
Through the chair, I put the descriptions of the priorities up
thank
on
you.
the
I was looking,
screen in
thank
front
you,
of
thank
us.
you, Jason. I was looking for that. So Scott, priority 2, which is currently ranked as, is necessary to maintain the town's current buildings, et cetera. Priority 1 is involving correcting a safety or health issue or to meet a federal or state legal requirement. Would you opine on priority 1 or 2 from your perspective?
It looks to be a 2. It may result in a health issue a couple of years from now. So I guess, it could be a 1 as well. Currently, it doesn't pose a health risk. Currently, we didn't see any evidence of mold growth. Who knows when they pull it apart, though? There may be black mold in the dark areas in the back where you don't get any sun. So without further demolition, either 1 or 2 would be viable prioritizations.
All right, thank you. So Susan, given that feedback from Scott Charpentier on the priority.
Excuse me?
It
It wasn't seconded, so we can move on.
Okay, so we're gonna leave it as a 2.
I do think too, John, just real quickly before we move past this, and I guess in light of, John Ray's comments about being good stewards of the people's money, I do think that this is going to look like a big number. I mean, people are used to getting their houses redone and they've got a cost in their mind. People are used to, I could see people thinking that, wow, I could almost build an entire house for this. Close to it. Maybe not the exact same size. It's a bigger building, but I think people are going to look at this and say, whether it comes from free cash or whether it comes from, tax revenue, that's a lot of money to do for what mostly is a cosmetic restoration on the building, understanding that there's rotten wood and things like that need to come out, but it's really the exterior. Right. So I think we should be mindful of that. And Scott, when you're presenting this to the town, just be mindful of that. Because I think if I was sitting in the audience, that would be my thought.
that was my thought when I received the estimate. Oh my goodness, this is vinyl siding, a really big house. And
Yeah,
I got a
and
phone call with the
maybe,
architects and the estimators, and there was no fluff in there. I was just sticker shock, like you said.
yeah, and maybe we get like additional bids. I don't know. But maybe there's an opportunity to talk to a couple different providers that are out there and, get significantly different bids. I mean, it's not lost on me either that the cost increase is sort of exactly the same amount as the truck that is being replaced. That's kind of, a side comment here, but, maybe we bid this out and talk to a couple of different contractors, and maybe there's an opportunity to come in less. That's all I'm saying.
There is mandate that we publicly bid this and award it to the lowest responsive and responsible contractor. What that bid package contains is what we'll discuss with the architect, and in a means of sealing up the building in a way that'll last 30 or 40 years, but is the most cost effective. That's my goal. I would be very happy if this comes in at half that number, and that money goes right back into free cash for, another project or something next year. There's a lot of needs.
Okay, any further comments or discussion? Rob? No? Okay. With no further comments, do we have a motion to approve Article 19, the police station siding project for $540,000 of priority 2?
You're asking for a motion. I believe I did, and Mr. Babcock seconded.
Sorry, we went on into discussion. Okay. Motion made, motion seconded. All those in favor by roll call. Susan Satori,
Aye.
Ken Picard,
Aye.
Scott Stockland,
Aye.
Rob Babcock,
Aye.
John Ray,
Aye.
and John Rappa. Aye. Article is approved unanimously.
Okay,
Mr. Charpentier, I think we have all the questions for you for this part of the agenda. Jason, do we need him for anything further?
I don't believe so. Yeah, I want to thank Scott for his quick response to all this and getting the answers and us being available tonight.
Happy to help. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Good night. All right, Jason, do we want to go back to the very beginning of the report?
Yeah, I just wanted to at your discretion go back to the pickleball article. I know we have since clarified that the article should have been 54,500. And I think at the time we voted on it in the draft warrant article, it was $54,000 even. So I don't know if that warrants discussion or another vote. But to be official, maybe you should revote this one as well.
Okay. Article 41, the soundproofing of the outdoor pickle courts at Ellsworth McAfee Park, a revised cost of $54,500. We previously voted on this on our last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve this article with the new cost price?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve Article 41, the soundproofing of the outdoor pickleball courts at Ellsworth McAfee Park for the cost of $54,500.
Okay. Will I hear a second?
Second.
Okay.
By
Any
Ken
further?
Picard.
Thanks, Ken. Any further discussion?
We're just voting on the dollar change?
Yes, Rob, that's correct. Okay, can we do a roll call vote on this? Susan Satori,
Aye.
Ken Picard,
Aye.
Scott Stockland,
Aye.
Rob Babcock,
Aye.
John Ray,
Clarifying question.
please.
To Bob's point, like if we're approving the change to the cost, but our recommended approval 5-1 will still stay the same. This is just a vote to change the cost to 54,500.
That's correct.
Thank you. Aye.
Yeah, John Ray, aye. And I think I said no on the last one. I was the one.
I believe
So-
I was the one. I said no in the last one.
Was that you, Rob? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, then I say aye. So it's 5-1. Approval.
All right, so we're all in good faith going to leave this 5-1, and the answer is going to be, recommendation is going to be yes, but. So
We're
we
just
can,
voting on changing the dollar amount in this.
Yes.
I just wanted everybody to know we're operating good faith by, you know, bringing that to your attention, that the number went up.
Mhm.
Okay, so,
Can we start at the top of the report and just go down through it sequentially?
yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
So if you recall from our last review of this, there were certain enhancements, markups done to this based on your respective feedback. Go back to the very beginning, Jason. So I
Yeah,
want to
sure.
point something out.
Sure.
You'll notice the term expiration dates for each of you, and they're different. And in the bylaws of the town, I believe, there is language which says, if you are appointed to the committee to fulfill a seat that was previously held, your term is the remainder of your term is the remainder of that, and that's why these dates are staggered. So Scott, yours is this April, and Ken yours is next year, and then 26 and 27. That's why they're different.
Well, the listing is consistent with what the town clerk listed on my notification.
Okay. Question, Susan?
Yes, I just wanted to say, could we make sure that we say something, because this whole thing has evolved so very quickly. Mr. Scotland was just appointed, and he has to turn it around and be reappointed. So can we get the ball rolling so he can get his reappointment through the school committee at the end of April? I believe the seats are up after town meeting, is that correct?
Tim or Jason?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not really sure the mechanics of that, like how that transpires, but yeah, we can, I'll make some inquiries tomorrow when I'm back in the office, and
I think it's Diane or Linda that typically have put this out.
Thank you,
Thank
I'd
you.
appreciate it, because if we're gonna have a meeting in May, I would love Mr. Scotland to be able to be there.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right.
Yeah. So let me know if I need to reach back out to Greg and ask him about, the reappointment process. I'm certainly happy to do that. But Susan, you're right. I think I was just appointed in October. So
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention and why there's a difference.
And
So
it
we'll
can,
make sure we'll follow up with the appropriate persons, Mr. Stockman.
yes, as quickly as possible, Scott, because honestly, you know how hard it is to get public meetings posted and people to take votes on things.
yeah, I'm gonna draft an email immediately
Thank you.
to get this. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay. All right. We've added information on the meetings we've had or will have in terms of when the committee had gotten together. Again, this is going to be in the warrant book. I don't see any further changes. I went back and looked at the prior version of this. I don't see anything until we get to
Mr. Chair, I remember at one of our meetings, maybe it was the meeting when I watched the selectmen and the FinCom, they talked about article numbers being different. Has that been resolved?
Yeah, we align the article numbers to what they ended up being. So there's no disconnect. There shouldn't be any disconnect between the warrant book and the discussions that happened with this body. But so the article numbers did change. When the select board reopened the warrant, there was a few more articles. There was another article that got added as a result of the Health and Human Services. I don't know if Ken, if you were here for that discussion earlier, but that caused that was like some of the reasoning for why the hook truck article stayed in the warrant in the end.
Jason, and thank you for your comment, but I'm just trying to make sure everything's in a line. I understand it's a moving target, but I just want to make sure we're aligned.
Yeah, so one of the things that did change in this report, maybe from one of the last times we looked at it, I wasn't sure if the committee wanted to opine on the capital assessment that's within the regional school district's assessment. The superintendent did a presentation and discussed that there's going to annually be a capital assessment, and that's a new practice that they're going with this year. So if people are unfamiliar with this, they're not wrong, because it is a new practice that there's going to have an operating assessment that they're going to assess us for. So this would be for pay-as-you-go capital, similar to our free cash articles, where it's just using current resources to pay for the projects rather than borrowing. So our Algonquin assessment now has 4 components to it. We have an operating assessment. We now have a pay-as-you-go capital assessment, which is this $242,000 that we're looking at in this drafted report right now. There's a debt assessment for the addition renovation project, which is debt excluded, so it's exempt from Proposition 2.5. And then there's a non-excluded debt assessment for the athletic complex that was approved last year. So, like I said, there's 4 components. This is one of them, and it's new. So, again, I'm bringing it to your attention that it may be appropriate for the committee to lodge their recommendation or problem with it in this report.
I have a
Rob?
question.
Susan?
You say it's a pay-as-you-go and it's like free cash, but it isn't, because it's part of an assessment where tax dollars are going to have to be collected, correct?
Correct. What I meant by that comment was that it was going to be from current resources and not borrowing.
Okay, but it almost sounds like there's monies there, but if their budget doesn't pass, they don't have the money to actually do the capital projects.
Correct.
Okay. There's one thing that I would really like to ask for our May meeting that revolves around this, is that everybody in this committee be given a copy of the regional agreement, so that all the members of financial planning can understand the structure of our obligation as a town member to the regional school district, and how we do get assessed, since that's the governing body for how all of that is done.
Sure.
Susan, I was going to bring up what I'm calling financial planning fundamentals meeting in approximately May under any other businesses. I scratched that down for now. I'll bring that up a little further down the agenda of this meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think it's prudent for this committee to opine on this, and I think it's within the scope of our responsibility to opine on this and to review this.
Through the chair, it's Ken Picard.
Ken?
I'm in favor of providing money to the school district to do their capital planning and repairs. I am still not sure why we can't use this through free cash. where we have reoccurring bills. We buy police cruisers every year, right? Which is reoccurring, but that comes out of free cash. Why can't we just do this out of free cash to help reduce the tax burden on the citizens?
Can I just make a comment that typically the CIP gets put together. We look at all of the total amounts where free cash would be available for it, and there just simply isn't enough free cash to fund everything in the CIP that came forward this year. And this was targeted because it's part of an assessment, which is typically raised in taxes. So that's how it just for the structure of the article, it was left that way. If we took $242,000 from free cash, it would lower our level of reserves that we typically target. So that's really the reasoning behind why $242,000 was left here under taxation rather than free cash.
But with that comment, we just bumped up the police station, excuse me, over $200,000. So that there was money available. It just, on my perspective, and going back to what John Ray said, I think we have an obligation. Just because we have it, we shouldn't spend it freely. We should make sure it goes to the right places appropriately, so we can keep our taxes as low as possible. That's my opinion.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, Jason, I haven't said a word. You guys, you're doing a great job, you and Scott. But relative to your financial management policies, it's not what you have agreed to in the past in terms of having an ongoing assessment or an operating cost. And I'm sure that they would consider that assessment a need on an ongoing basis. Your goal for free cash is one-time revenues for one-time expenses. This, I think we can pretty much guarantee, will not be a one-time item. So it does two things. One, Jason says it brings down your reserves lower than you would want them to be for your free cash balance of $500,000, but it also uses more than the $500,000 of free cash to stabilize your tax rate if you were to do the $242,000. I mean, it's right to have a public policy discussion about it, but in terms of your financial management policies that you have currently, it would be contrary to those if you were to use free cash.
Through the chair.
John?
And Susan, please go first. You have your hand up.
Okay, thank you. I do believe that the Regional School Committee has taken this initiative because they are trying to do a good job of putting together a long-range capital improvement plan for themselves within their budget. They have found it very hard to, no matter how we want to fund it, to come to one town and ask for something and then to the second town, and sometimes it doesn't pass in both towns. So this is an initiative that they've put together to try to finance over the long term a capital maintenance program, and they did state to us in their presentation that this is 1 year of the next 4 or 5 years for specific items. So I think we need to look and understand that, and how we fund it. I think we need to have a conversation amongst ourselves for the future, and also to talk to them about how that would impact their thoughts.
Yes, agreed. John Ray?
And Susan,
John?
I agree with the sentiment. For me, like, we've had a lot of conversation. We brushed over stuff that was a warrant and said, oh, it's in free cash, so it doesn't have any impact on taxes, and we all kind of nod. And now we have something here that meets a lot of the criteria we talk about. It's HVAC, it's lighting improvements. Tim's making a point about the school and capitalization. I think we don't have enough tension in our conversations. Like, I feel like, and we'll get through this year. It's late. We're going to continue to work and collaborate. But I would love more tension in the conversations, because I think that at this point, it's kind of like we all kind of agree with it. But we just kind of like looked at a bunch of stuff and didn't really have the debate. And so I'd like us to see that instituted going forward after this town meeting.
Agreed. We're jammed we're time boxed on this, John. I agree.
We all jumped into the very first meeting, all of us being brand new to the committee, except
Yep.
for the chairperson. And I think everybody has really done a pretty good job and have had really
Yes.
good questions and thoughtfulness. And I look forward to having those kinds of conversations after this town meeting. I think it's important because
No,
yes, the
yeah.
tax dollars are growing.
Fast, and I'm proud to be proud of working with this committee with everyone on it. I'm proud to be on it. So like these are all good things, and we all want to go in the same direction. But that's just some initial observations. I think we're all kind of failing, as to your point, Susan. We came in fast and late.
Yep, I hear your frustration. I hear your frustration, and I'm glad also we have a good mix of perspectives on the committee.
Well, let me ask this question, John, for you. So earlier in one of our meetings, I think it was mentioned, I think for those of you that may not have lived in the town for a long period of time, it was about 15 years ago or so when the town voted on a large amount of borrowing for the high school, right? And we went through a big discussion about, do we build new or do we renovate? And I think it was determined ultimately to renovate. That required a lot of borrowing. That required an assessment, tax assessment across the residents of the district. And I think I heard early in one of our earlier meetings that those bonds were almost due to be paid off in the relatively near future, or the last tranche was coming due. And it sort of leads me to think that maybe some of that tax money, because I don't think, so the tax assessment isn't going to go away, right? And so whatever the cost per household was for that, since those bonds are going to be paid off, and John, I think you see where I'm going with this, could we not direct that portion of the tax increase to fund something like this going forward?
Jason?
Yeah. I would just add that is correct. 2027 is the final year of the debt assessment related to the Ad Ren project, and that the last piece of that, the last debt issue is what's still outstanding. So we'll have to pay for it until 27, but it's leveled. It's structured as level debt, so it's going to be about $650,000 a year that the town is paying toward that debt assessment. So the total is about $1 million of a debt payment that's due, but our share of it would be about $650,000 or so a year for the next few years.
So Jason, is that not excluded debt?
Correct, it is. But the issue with excluded debt is that we have unused levy capacity as right now. It's tax impact. It's tax impact either way. If it's debt excluded, it impacts the taxpayer. If it's not debt excluded, it's just part of the Proposition 2.5 levy capacity calculation. So to that point, the taxpayers will get relief from that 650 dropping off in 27. So to that point, it's part of, the debt assessments are part of the assessment and are raised in taxation as well. So like I said, the four components are, the operating assessment, the capital pay-as-you-go capital assessment, and then the two debt assessments. And one of the debt assessments will drop off after 27.
Jason, why the odd amount on this? $242,077 for specific.
That's simply the projects that they proposed at our assessment rate. So that's the amount that we would be appropriating in order to cover our share of the assessment.
Okay.
And it's
thank you.
Our to be clear, it's in the regional agreement. There's an assessment method for the operating assessment, and that's purely enrollment driven. Or not purely enrollment driven, but it's part of the state foundation funding formula that is driven by enrollment. So it's basically enrollment that drives our operating assessment. Our capital and debt assessments are driven by a 4-year rolling average of an enrollment, and those numbers are very close to each other. It's 61 point something for the operating assessment, and it's 61.91% for the rolling average calculation. So they're virtually the same. But anyway, that's what's in the, when Susan mentioned the regional agreement, which we can get out to people, but that's where that comes from. Those percentage rates and that method comes from the regional agreement.
Good, thank you. Any further questions, comments? Scott?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, Rob?
All set.
Okay, can we have a motion on Article 7, the Algonquin Regional High School capital for $242,077 of priority 2. We do a roll call on this. Susan Satori?
Oh, did we actually?
Uh,
Did we-
Do we have a motion?
Sorry. I apologize for that. Do we have a motion to approve this?
Since you called on me, I move that we approve Article 7, the capital assessment from the regional school district, in the amount of $242,077.
Second by Ken Picard.
Any further discussion? Okay, can we do a roll call vote on this? Susan Satori,
Aye.
Ken Picard,
Aye.
Scott Stockland,
Aye.
Rob Babcock,
Aye.
John Ray,
Aye.
John Rappa, aye. Unanimous. So Jason, going back to the top of the report.
Yep.
There are sections where we finesse the language, the dot points relative to what would be funded from free cash, where there are certain vehicles that are going to have a useful life of 10 or more years. That's been added to this.
Yeah.
I see you have a large block here on yellow about the ARPA consideration.
Yeah, I was trying to surmise the thoughts of the committee, and I dropped this in there just to I was trying to encapsulate what had kind of been discussed already, and I don't know if you want to read this and wordsmith it, John, at all, or I just tried to
Is this consistent? Is this the same as the email you sent me earlier this afternoon?
It's similar. I just made it shorter.
Okay. So again, the town had received 4.5 million in ARPA funds in 2 tranches in the past. Approximately 1.8 million remain unallocated. And the select board had not presented a plan for the remaining funds, and no capital budget items were selected and presented to this committee. We recommended the select board that they establish clear priorities and criteria to assess the projects identified by department staff and the public in time to meet the December 2024 obligation. That's the trigger date for identifying projects for ARPA funding, and emphasis should be placed on a short time frame and priorities. And I believe, Jason, also the Appropriations Committee has also opined on that. Yes?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, they want similar language in their report. The challenge of this as well is that the deadline is coming up fast, and the December 2024, in terms of what the definition of obligation is, and that hasn't changed from Treasury, even though some people have kind of opined that it might as we get closer to the deadline. But the definition of obligation is that there's a sum of money that will need to be paid, which means that you have to have entered into a contract with a vendor or someone. So it's no longer, it's not an intention anymore. It has to be something defined at that point. So it's a shorter timeline than I think people may realize, is that that's going to come up quick. That, before we can issue a contract, we have to follow procurement laws and so forth, and bid out different things if there's going to be a project that involves bidding. And we still have to follow the federal procurement guidelines, which I know on the state level, we follow state procurement law that Scott was mentioning when he was talking about the police station project, where the architect services are exempt from procurement. You can pick whoever architect you want to work with, but the job, like the public work, would need to be bid out, and that's the same situation with the federal procurement standards. And the federal procurement laws don't have the exemptions for, like, say, an architect, like there are under the state laws. So it's federal funds, and there has to be bidding that happens for anything larger than $10,000. So there's $1.8 million left. Approximately, it's less than 1.8. It's 1.78, I believe. It rounds to 1.8 million. But again, it is a short timeline, and it is a little anxiety provoking. There nothing preclude capital items from being funded from ARPA if they were, quote, shovel ready. So that may be a recommendation as we start looking at capital items that are ready to go, for some of these things. Because last year there was a big recommendation among both of the financial committees to, instead of incurring debt for the fire truck and the DPW tight tank, those were the two articles that were funded with borrowing. There's a delay for the fire truck. So again, that's going to be somewhat of a fraught item to use for ARPA funds, because we could enter into a contract, and that would be great in terms of the obligation. But in terms of it, if it were delayed, there's not necessarily going to be provision for it being delayed past December 2026 to pay out that contract.
Jason and Tim, two questions. Number one, do you have a horizon when you expect to have some priorities from the select board yet?
I'll let I believe it's coming up soon. I don't know the specific meeting that they're talking about that happening at, but I'll let Tim answer that if he's still here.
I'm still here. I would just say I sent a note that Jason had crafted to the committee, to the board, reminding them of the time frame for December's deadline. So they, individually talking to me, certain board members looked at, the week of the 29th or sooner. And I imagine it will be a discussion item tonight, maybe. It's not on the particular agenda, but members might bring it up relative to the articles and the signing of the town meeting warrant. So I think by the end of this month, you'll see some movement relative to the priority. And then I have, whatever those priorities are, we have to administratively execute the function to make sure we procure it properly, whatever those projects might be.
Jason and Tim, my second question is, do you have any concern, does the select board have any concern that the feds may claw back any unused money?
Yeah, I mean, could I, Tim, you may have a different answer than I do, but yeah, it's a concern, but it's not something we can do anything about. And this is one of the things that we're hearing is if the parties of the administrations change, the first thing that they're going to do is claw back any money that's been unused from this specific source. And I've heard that from a few people, but I don't know if that would happen or not. But I don't think there's much we can do about it at this point.
Thank you.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Susan? Yes.
In this paragraph, there is a sentence that says no capital budget items were selected and presented to the Financial Planning Committee. I don't know that it's really their job to have to do that, because they vote on anything that they want for ARPA. I think what bothers me the most is that they have not taken the initiative to try to defer some taxable items eliminate them from our capital budget by paying for them with ARPA. So I think somehow we have to change that sentence to say something like that. Because it's not, they didn't do anything wrong by no capital budget items were selected and presented to us. They don't have to present to us.
Through the chair,
Please.
I think our capital budget items are fine. It's more of the funding source, right?
Right.
ARPA is the funding source, so there's still a capital item that we have to review, but ARPA would be the funding source instead of free cash.
But I think it's just not clear that that they didn't offer to use ARPA to fund any of the capital budget items this year. Maybe that's what we say.
I agree.
And again, to reiterate, last year, both the Appropriations Committee and this committee recommended to town meeting that the tight tank for the DPW garage and the fire engine replacement be funded with ARPA, and the select board chose not to do that, and they were going to go to the debt markets to fund those two projects.
I mean, this is a way that we can help the taxpayer by using those ARPA funds for some of these kinds of items. So I think it's more that they just didn't put up any funding source for anything.
So Jason, we'll have to work on that.
Yeah,
part
we
of this
can work
paragraph.
on, and again, it was an attempt at my part of trying to encapsulate what the comments I had heard were.
And I get why you did it, but I just think they'll take offense. They'll say, well, we don't have to present to them. So it's more that we would have liked to have seen ARPA as a funding source for some of the capital projects.
Yeah, I mean, the tone wasn't intended to be offensive.
Oh, I don't think you would ever be offensive in saying some people would take offense.
Okay.
How dare you?
So
Is, question for maybe
John, please go ahead, John.
are we, I don't know. I know I heard threads of this earlier in one of our earlier sessions, but can we make a recommendation for something like the police station that we have high confidence in, or is that outside our boundaries and we just kind of have this as a boilerplate, or not sure how the interaction works?
Tim and Jason, perspective on that question?
I would say this. I would say it's within the purview of the committee to make whatever recommendations it wants to make. I mean, it wouldn't be inappropriate for last year. There was a recommendation made. It obviously wasn't. It wasn't honored, but or I think it was considered, but it ultimately didn't change the path that was taken. You can make a recommendation to do that, and we can put language in the report that reflects if the committee as a whole wants to recommend that that the police station be something that's funded with ARPA funds. That could be a recommendation that's brought forward.
Susan?
I would be in support of that as long as we can make sure that we meet all those deadlines that are, because it's so late in the process. But yes, it's a very good idea.
And I think what I like about the police station is some of the credibility earned through the process. The chief coming in and saying, we weren't sure, right? We weren't sure what the intentions were for the future for capital investment. And the police chief saying, you will not see me here for a new police building in my term, and all these things like that. And so the investment ask to me is well thought out. It's aligned with how we think about, good management town money and fiduciary responsibility. So I think if people hear things like that, I think they can get, I think that can help strengthen the argument, but I don't know. I have no experience with how the select board wants to deal with ARPA funds.
Well,
And-
we want to
and the
put
selectmen- Excuse me, Mr. Chair. I just
Sorry,
wanted to
Susan,
say,
go ahead, please.
I think that the selectmen have been very responsive to the needs for the school department when they needed a new roof and things like that. So they may very well respond well to the needs of this fire station. So I'd be happy to see a recommendation in there for that.
I think police station, fire station, maybe.
Oh, I keep saying the wrong thing. Sorry. It's like about the third time for me. Thank you.
do we want to put a bullet point in the police station siding article that this committee recommends the use of ARPA as much as possible on that?
Through the chair.
Article 19, Ken?
John, now, I want to hold off on that for a minute. I want to continue the discussion. In
Okay,
that paragraph we're proposing, can't we just say in there that whatever is eligible for ARPA funds within the capital budget, it gets funded from that? Because that's really what we're looking at. If anything's eligible, it's going to be, even though it's free cash, if we can pass that cost off to something else, that gives us the opportunity to possibly fund something else that maybe was questionable.
okay.
I think that that's a good point. I think that's a good point, but I still think it would be nice to be specific and mention the police station, their police station.
If we're going to do that, Susan, I think we should put it on everything, every article. An alternate funding source is ARPA funds.
And I think it's controversial. I think people look at that as town investment. I think that as easy as that sounds to solve some of the problem that we all see pretty acutely about this tax bill going up so much without any capital projects hitting it, and it gets the anxiety level really high. That I just don't think the town's there. I think you got to be specific. You got to build credibility and get some wins. I just think the blanket statement won't land.
Okay.
The other thing is,
that's opinion, by the way. That's not a fact. That's my opinion.
No, I understood.
we've had this 4.5 million for 2 years and then the 1.8 or so that's left. And I got to think there are questions on people's minds in town in terms of what are you doing with it? What are you sitting on it for? And that's sitting in an interest-bearing account.
Mr. Chair, can I just ask the committee one thing, or maybe just share a quick insight relative to being pragmatic about this, right? We only have till December to get things under contract. There could be, I mean, more to Ken's point, if you voted all these things at town meeting and used free cash, and then the priority emerged and there just simply wasn't time to bid out and to meet all the timing requirements for ARPA. We could still, I could not spend these monies that are approved at town meeting and allocate ARPA for police cruisers, whatever I'm looking at on the page, do all those things, and then this money could just revert back and be reappropriated at a future town meeting. So I'm not saying that's gonna happen, I'm just saying that pragmatically, if the timing doesn't lend itself to do everything that's required under procurement law, I may end up having to make that recommendation to use that 1.8 so we do not lose it. So there's a backstop, because many of these things we can get ahead of the deadline. I'm fairly confident we can get before the deadline. But I just want to put that out there as a backstop to not losing it if we are completely up against the timing deadline.
I concur. I'm concerned that, the deadline or any clawbacks, this stuff could disappear on us.
I mean, would it be safe to say that we would recommend looking at the capital plan and selecting items that may have been funded with free cash for whatever is most readily available to comply with the deadlines?
So do we really need to say that, or is that just kind of given by town administration that would do that logically, automatically, without making it more complicated with all these warrants? Question mark. Jason.
Susan?
Mr. Chair, we don't even have to put it in this. We could ask the chair to write a letter suggesting that they use ARPA funds for some of the capital items and not put it in our warrant, and just have a letter sent to them.
Susan, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, let's do that and change that sentence in there that they didn't recommend to.
Oh, I just deleted it.
Okay, good.
Not there now.
Thank you.
Okay.
So could we have you, John, and maybe Jason write a letter?
We will draft something.
Thank
Jason, Tim, we should get that back to the committee to give them one pass at it. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, take that as an action.
I would like to ask, though, by consensus, do people want to see some specifics, including the police station in there, or are they fine with the broad? I think it'll be easier when the letter's drafted to get if we have a consensus beforehand.
I don't have a strong position.
Okay.
You know, for what
Let
it's
Jay,
worth, I would almost like to see some broad options, even if they don't all come to fruition. Because I think it's more optics than anything else. I think if we can say that the money's going to be used for, you know, these 4 or 5 or 6 projects, I think it gives the town more confidence than just saying we're going to spend it on something and you'll almost never know exactly what it is, but it's going to be spent. So just my opinion.
That's what we wanted.
okay. Something that addresses, using it where appropriate for capital projects.
I would-
Okay, we'll let us craft something on that.
I
Thank
picked
you.
things that the town can see to Scott's point, not replacement cruisers or DPW trucks or like those are the hot buttons, right? So I think doing the things when you pass the police station and you see it, you'll notice it, and it's a sound proposal.
Okay, good. All right. That being said, Jason, page 50. So where we have the respective articles, I mean, I've gone through and marked up where to corroborate the votes we did or where we changed priorities and where we added some dot points in terms of funded from free cash with no additional tax impact. That's in there in a number of areas. Obviously, we're updating this to reflect the 3 or so articles we just voted on. Article 22, the public health trailer. We voted on this, and I think we changed it to a priority 4.
Mhm.
Okay. The hook lift truck is gone. That's gone. The Article 28, the inflow and infiltration is a 1. I think that was a different number before we changed it to a 1. And Article 31, the Melican pneumatic control repairs, we changed that to a 2. I think we had some debate on that. Going to Article 40, Community Preservation Act. Article 40. Jason, why did we not have a priority on this? Because it doesn't fit.
It's because it's CPA funding. It's just typically not been assigned a priority when it's been proposed to be funded with the CPA funds.
Okay. And is the sponsor should be
And
Community Preservation Commission, CPC?
Yeah. So I think the thought is that they're not competing for resources within a list of articles. I think that's the thought is that once they come through the CPC, you're just weighing them at their merits and not in a competitive
All right.
fashion.
So the sponsor should say CPC on that Article 40?
Yeah, I noticed in the past that's just kind of been left blank, but yeah, we could put CPC.
I would say on 40, 42, and 43, and 46, they all should probably say CPC.
Get me stuff done. So it's good.
And to remind everybody, on Article 43, we voted no unanimously on that project.
Jason, have all the votes that I sent to you been changed? Because it's
Yeah,
moving.
yeah, I
Okay.
think that, we double checked them against the minutes too from that meeting, and we put a lot of effort to try to make sure that, it wasn't me alone. It was the administrator's office was looking at
Okay,
this as
great.
well to make sure that we had the right counts here.
All right, thank you.
Jason, when this is done, remove the draft watermark from the document, needless
Yeah.
to say. Any further comments on the report?
Clarifying question, on article, it was on the CPC stuff.
Sure.
Article up a bit, I'm sorry, I don't recall, it
Starts with
was,
40.
yeah, so the Northborough Affordable Housing Corp, that funding, was that a 6-0 or a 5-1? I recall it being 5-1, but I may not be remembering correctly.
I think it was
Actually-
4-2. I think we had it as 4-2.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's 4-2, it's not 6-0.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I updated the bottom, not the top, but
Oh,
So-
okay.
so
And so, Jason, the recap on that, the recap is correct. There's a table with a recap on the vote, but in the body of this,
yeah, I
it
need
was
to update
incorrect.
the
That was a good
one. Yeah.
catch. That was a good catch. Thank you. Good catch, John. All right, any other comments?
to the chair,
Ken?
John, some of the questions I have, I don't know, you had talked about or alluded to having another meeting to talk about process. The ranking or priority, I'm still having a hard time with the way we're listing that. I don't want to rock the boat and change anything at the moment, but I think we need to have more discussion on, is it a classification, is it a priority, is it a ranking? So I can fully understand that better.
All right. In a couple of minutes, I thought I would propose the agenda items for this follow-up meeting on what I'm calling financial planning fundamentals. And so when we get to that, let's discuss and add to it. And I'll have Angie send that out with the minutes. I'll have Angie send that out with the minutes. But I've got about 7 line items on an agenda for probably a May meeting. Okay. Subject to what we discussed and the new voting on these articles and the ARPA language and the ARPA letter. Do we need to vote on these changes as now amended?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we vote on the proposed report of the Financial Planning Committee for town meeting as amended.
Second,
Any further discussion? Have a roll call vote then. Susan Satori,
aye.
Ken Picard,
Aye.
Scott Stockland,
Aye.
Rob Babcock,
Aye.
John Ray,
Aye.
and John Rappa. Aye. Thank you. Next line item, next agenda item, discussion and vote to appoint a liaison to the Fire Station Building Committee. I'd like to give you the background on this and then open it for discussion. And I think relative to a vote, I may have to excuse myself. So the then town administrator in the roughly September of 2022 asked this committee for a volunteer to be represented on the Fire Station Building Committee. And I volunteered and I was appointed to the Fire Station Committee by the town administrator on September 23rd, 2022, and copies of that appointment went to the town clerk and the Board of Selectmen. And I had been participating and voting on that committee until early March. I resigned from that committee on March 11th because of a technicality that embedded in the bylaws of the town for both the appropriations and the financial planning committee. There's language which says that if you serve on either of those committees, you cannot be a member or an officer on any other committee or board in the town. I sent this afternoon to you all an email forwarded by Tim from outside counsel. And there's language in there which says that a liaison can exist, a non-voting liaison can exist between this committee and the Fire Station Building Committee. And at this point in the project, prior to now, we've selected, the committee selected a owner's project manager, which is Colliers. We selected a design group, which is HKT Architects, and we're currently in the budget review process. This is going to be north or south of a $40 million project. And we're right now in the committees in the process of drilling down into the numbers. There have been public comment meetings on this. There have been meetings with the design review committee and the zoning board of approval. At this point in time,
something you have like forever. It's weird.
Want to discuss the item of a liaison with the Fire Station Building Committee.
Terry, Northborough Cable, I think you may want to go on mute.
I remember when you were laboring over that. I don't know how long ago that was now. But... I bought it a year ago.
We have someone else coming into the meeting.
Yeah, no, Kathy was still here and I bought this.
I think it's Northborough Cable. I think it keeps blinking on my screen, so that's been on the whole time. I think.
Yeah, it's Terry.
Does anyone have admin rights to mute that line? We do at work. I'm not sure if we have it here.
Anybody text her?
I had her number. I would. My first time I met Terry.
Oh yeah, I think they need you.
Hello.
Terry, you've been in our meeting.
You've been live.
Okay.
Could you kindly mute? Thank you. Okay. So the Fire Station Building Committee liaison.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I move the Financial Planning Committee appoint Mr. John Rappa to serve as our liaison to the Northborough Fire Station Building Committee.
I think we need a point of order. I think John needs to recuse himself from this.
Okay, I will.
Yeah.
So do I just go on mute?
Just go mute.
Then somebody else,
second.
I don't have the ability to call everybody out or conduct the meeting as the vice chair. So somebody help me out here, Jason or somebody.
Well, Susan, we can hear you talk, so I think
Okay.
you're fine.
All right. I've just made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I read the letter sent by town council. I think it was very thorough. I think on our end, we had talked about optics earlier and other items. I think it's important that we have a liaison, but probably sitting at the table with the voting members is probably not the best option, at least in my opinion. But having someone there, if a question is asked or being able to forward information, I think is critical for the capital planning committee.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I have a question.
Is that you, Scott, the bridge?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to my camera, but
Okay.
so I think one of the things that the town really depends upon with the finance committee is objectivity. And so we're in a scenario where the town bylaws strictly say unequivocally that there should be no member of this committee that's part of another committee. And I think that's really what they're getting at. And it feels a little bit like we're trying to go around the rules by creating sort of a, I'll just call it like a hybrid position. And it makes me wonder if we do have a quote unquote liaison, whether they're sitting at the table, whether they participated in past votes, whether that would force this individual to recuse themselves from votes on the financial planning committee related to the fire station. I feel like we're trying to have it both ways. And my personal opinion is I don't think the optics are good. And I think it gives people the opportunity to question the objectivity of those individuals. And I
Okay.
don't think that's good.
All right.
That's my-
Anybody else have any comments?
Susan, Ken Picard again. Susan, I
Yeah.
just want to bring up, I think, I agree with the optics. We have to be very careful on how this is done. But I'm personally not going to attend or go to every Zoom meeting or every public hearing for a process. I think having someone who has the drive and desire to go to those and be able to relay information to us directly, I think is important. And as long as the individual who does that makes it clear that they're not, which town council stated, they're not a member of the committee, and they have no voting authority. They're just here for information and they answer questions. I think that takes care of that, for me, takes care of that issue.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can just make a comment on that too. Like there's the town council was very clear that anybody can go as a citizen, right? And so I feel like that satisfies that. And I know John has been involved in this committee, in the fire station committee for a long time. He's obviously very interested in it. And I don't think there's any reason why he can't still go and participate as a citizen in the same way that anyone on this committee could do so. I just don't know what we gain by formalizing and creating an additional role that is not currently permitted in the town bylaws.
Did you have something you wanted to say, John?
Yeah, I strongly agree with Scott. I feel like where we are, and none of this was ill will, or we just got to a point where I feel like John's compromised. I just think that, and not to do with John as a person, just in terms of the circumstances that are in front of us. So for transparency, for this is going to be hotly debated. I think attending the meeting serves the same value as sitting at the table without a vote.
Okay. Anybody else? No.
Susan,
I think Bob's trying. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Bob?
what does a liaison mean? And I guess I forgot what John said. Who asked him to be involved?
The former town administrator asked him to serve on the committee. That's how it got started.
Okay. And what is a liaison? What does that mean?
A liaison goes to a meeting. It does not have voting rights and does not sit on the board. You know, it's not listed as a board member. They are an advisor, which, if it can be helpful to any of you, not brought up in any of the discussion through legal counsel, is actually part of the code. It's 152-060, and it's the powers and the duties of financial planning. And one of them is for us to be advisory with any of the boards, commissions, committees in town. And it behooves us to develop those kinds of relationships because then we are able to work sometimes with them and sometimes be able to give them some advice. And then we learn so that we make better deliberations in the future. I think what has happened, this has been done for many, many years, the way that it's being proposed now. I think people got over their skis and started getting people appointed to committees that were actually on the two advisory boards. I actually served back in 2000 when we had to renegotiate the regional agreement, and they wanted the advisory boards on there, the two financial boards. The only way we could do it is by saying we were liaisons and we had no vote. So when we got and sat down with Southborough, we agreed that none of us would vote. We would do everything by consensus. So there's a way to work around using the people on the financial boards to be able to share their skills and get things done. I did go to the last fire station committee meeting and I saw John there and I saw the questions that he asked. I saw the depth and breadth of the knowledge that he has at this point in time. And he was the only one that raised his hands that said he would work in cooperation with the vice chair of the fire station building committee to start to look at all the costs and try to pare them down. So that is him as an advisory person helping him give eyes and working with Mr. Cohen. I don't know that we want to rob that committee of that resource at this point in time because of optics. I do agree things have not been done appropriately, but we can right the wrong now. And we can vote him as our liaison as long as he understands he's not a member of the committee and the committee understands he's not a member of the committee, and that as long as he does not take a vote on anything. So it's really up to us how we feel about it right now.
Why not all of us just be liaisons and attend as we can to serve in that same learning and advisory capacity? I just think the optics are tough on this one. I think
typically what has happened in the past is that usually a board will come to us or a town administrator will come to an advisory board and say, is there somebody on your board that be willing to serve it in an advisory capacity as a liaison? Because too many of us would start to be way too confusing. And besides, there's other things that we could be liaising with and on other than just that fire station. But I understand the optics. I understand how people feel. But it's did I have a second to my motion? Was there a second?
I think we're still in discussions, Susan.
Okay, because I thought I had read a motion to begin with and then John I had made a motion and then John started talking, and so it never got seconded. No?
I thought I had seconded it.
Okay.
But then
All
John
right.
accused himself, and I think we just started in the beginning. I think we're still at the beginning.
All right. So do you want to take a vote?
Well, I want to continue the discussion a little bit. I
Okay,
think
sure.
to that idea that I think really a liaison is strictly a point of contact. So one committee can focus all their comments to another person who can pass it on to another committee. We could, everybody get all the emails. We're going to get the information one way or another, either through the committee directly or through our liaison who can give it to us. I think it's just really how we feel about the optics. I think the same thing can happen. I know from my experience serving in another town, liaison was a typical fashion of the Board of Selectmen had a liaison to this committee. So not every member of the board had to go to all those meetings and hear things directly. It ended up being more of just a logistical thing and a work for us. I'm ready to vote now.
You move the motion?
Excuse me, Susan?
Okay. Yes, okay. So we're all set to vote? All right,
Yes.
Ken,
Aye.
Jonathan,
No.
Bob,
Aye.
Scott,
No.
am I missing anybody other than myself at this point? No, I vote aye. So it does not pass.
It does pass.
I thought it was 2 noes and 2 ayes.
Your
No?
vote counts.
Oh, okay, it passed. Should we give him a thumbs up?
Just tell them to come back in the meeting.
Think
so
John
we
can hear us.
see that.
John, still love you. Come on in, but don't agree with it.
Thank you. Thank you all.
John.
Two last. Susan?
John, the vote was that you would continue, but I'm going to read something that I had written
Please.
today, okay?
Okay.
That this is at least from my own perspective, that you will serve our committee by continuing with your consultation with the Fire Station Building Committee and will report his findings to the Financial Planning Board on a regular basis. And it is understood that pursuant to the Town Code, Chapter 152-010, you do get to, he does not serve on the committee. You do not serve and you have no authority to vote on any of the matters that come before the Fire Station Building Committee. I do want to say that you have worked and put an awful lot of time in, and you really know an awful lot. And I appreciated at the last meeting when you offered to work with Mr. Cohen to help to pare down the costs of the actual costs, the overall cost of the project. So I think that you have added a lot and will continue to do so. And thank you.
Thank you and agreed. Okay. 2 more items on the agenda. Next meeting will be at town meeting, April 22nd at 6 p.m. So this is before the town meeting begins. Question to Tim and Jason. That's the first night of Passover. Do we think that's going to impact attendance?
I can't hazard a guess.
Okay. Thought I'd bring it up. Hopefully by that meeting, we'll have the March 19th minutes to review and any other open items we have. Next item is under any other business before we open it up further. I've started to draft an agenda for this, what I'm calling Financial Planning Committee Fundamentals, and it includes things like what is our charter, financial trend monitoring system overview, budget policies, budget model and cash flow management, capital improvement program overview, fiscal policy overview, grants, tracking, methodology, facilities, tours, regional school agreements, and an ARPA update. So I'll have this included in the minutes that Angie will put out subsequent to this meeting for you to take a look at and see what you want to add to it. And then we'll have to figure out an appropriate date or dates. This may take more than one meeting to digest here. Any other business? Susan?
To that item, I hope that we can have in-person meetings. I think it would be a better dialogue. I think there are people that really want to have, very authentic conversations. And so I think that we should be in person and hopefully maybe be able to get it over in one day. And I hope that people take the time to think about what resources they would like to have included so that they could be made available in advance. So like a lot of the things should be sent to us so we have a chance to read them and digest them. So I'd love to see a packet sent to people at least a week in advance.
Good. For the short amount of times we've been meeting, I think we've had productive face-to-face meetings. So I concur with that this should be done face-to-face.
And then the last thing I'd like to ask is for you to look into and whether or not the rest of the committee would like to do so. I have found it productive to have a business meeting right before town meeting, usually 15 minutes before the start of town meeting. And like minutes that didn't show up this evening, we were able to vote on them. If there's last minute things that have taken place that we need to take a vote on, we can call ourselves to order. And maybe we can even find out whether or not we can keep ourselves, in called to order throughout the whole meeting in case we need to do anything, take any kind of action. So
Fine.
that would mean finding us a little room to go to and notifying everybody.
Just to refresh everybody here, again, having been through it several times before, we have done that. We've seconded a small classroom before the meeting officially starts. We've had our meeting there. We've had a call to order and everything else. And so, yes, we will do that. We intend to do that before the official start of the meeting.
So the official start of the meeting is what time?
Jason, is it 7? Tim, Jason?
I'm pretty sure it's 6 o'clock.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's 6. So
okay.
we have to
So
meet at
our meeting will be
5:45.
something like 5:30, 5:45.
5:30, yeah.
Yeah, John, if I may, I think for the protocols, if something arises during the course of the town meeting and we're asked to give a recommendation on a change, the only way we can do that is if we're in session, right? We can't poll ourselves at the meeting unless we're in have an agenda with a advertised meeting. So we have to make sure we're ready for that and are posted.
Agreed. And just to refresh yourselves, sitting at the front of the dais is the Appropriations Committee, the Select Board, the town administrator, financial staff, and ourselves. And so when we get to these capital articles, the moderator will ask our committee and appropriations respectively relative to do we approve this going forward and what our vote would be from there. So there's a process to do that at the meeting.
Yeah.
Any other business?
I bet Jason's got another meeting to go to.
And, well, I have 10 minutes.
Then let's do this. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Yeah,
So moved.
okay.
Second,
Have a roll call vote. Susan Satori.
Aye.
Excuse me. Pardon. Scott Stockland,
Aye.
Ken Picard,
Aye.
Rob Babcock,
Aye.
John Ray,
Aye.
and John Rappa. Aye. Meeting's adjourned, folks. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Good night.